Hello everyone. How's it going? Happy New Year 2026. Gosh, it's been a couple months. I don't know. I feel like I forgot how to do everything. I hope you guys are doing well, that it's been a while, whether you have been a quiet lurker of this channel for a while, new friendly face, whoever you are, wherever you are, welcome. My name is Elias, and in today's video, I just wanted to make something small, just a little quick reintroduction talking about the one 5-star book that I read last year of 2025 and my plan, my reading goals for this new year. Gosh, I don't even know where to begin. I like legit filmed the intro like 5 times before I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go straight ahead and plow through this without really any plan, essentially. Where have I been? Honestly, I don't want to say that I've been busy because I honestly have not. I guess I just took sort of a sabbatical, a break from just the content, social space in general. I think I really needed that. Just wanted to recalibrate my own life. I just essentially wanted to take a break for myself, my own mental health, emotionally, physically, mentally. And I gotta say, it did wonders. The first half of 2025 was god awful. God, it was so bad, just in general, like reading wise, personal life, and everything. But the second half of 2025 was where it truly picked off, and I just wanted to be more present with, I guess, the people in my life. And I am proud to say that I did accomplish that. Yeah, and here we are in 2026. I do feel the itch to be creative again, to create more content and everything. If you guys didn't know, I am a barista now, so that was really fun. That was the one thing that really got me out of like the negative headspace a lot, because it's sort of like this routine I had to adapt and interact with people daily, and just knowing how coffee culture works, especially here in LA. And that was really interesting to navigate. And the place I'm at, I really like the community, interacting with all of the different facets of life and people. You begin to familiarize yourself with their own life in like the small little tidbits that you guys share with each other. And that was really interesting. Some good, some bad, some beautiful, some thriving. It was just, I don't know, a little curtain of life that I got to view through, that I really enjoy doing that. So yeah, that's, I guess, the major update in my life. I also turned the big 3-0, 3 decades. Crazy. I'll be 31 this year in the next month. Crazy how time flies. And it was crazy because I recently listened to a friend's podcast, which, if you guys are interested, I'll leave linked down below, called The State of Sonder, where she was essentially saying in the latest episode that being able to live, just living right now as you are, is a luxury. And that is something I had to come to terms with at the end of, or just the accumulation of 2025. Coming to accept, being grateful, that privilege that I'm still alive, I'm still here, and that I'm loved, I'm not alone. So I hope wherever you are, wherever you're watching, likewise to you as well. And all the blessings, just a simple digital hug from me to you for the upcoming new year. With that being said, I'm just gonna go and talk about the one book that I only gave 5 stars to in 2025. It was just one book. Last year was pretty abysmal. I only read 16 books. I mean, considering even if you've only read one book, you've already pretty much surpassed the national average reader. I did read 16 books, and I wanted to celebrate that. It was a tough, rough year, but still got 16 books in, and a lot of them were mostly fantasy, romantasy, urban fantasy. I did read 1 or 2 thrillers for Kayla's book club, the Literally Dead book club, where we read Riley Sager's recent latest thriller, and that was interesting. We did a whole live show, and I'm always grateful to Kayla for asking me and bringing me on, because in that way, it's just like a little, oh, people are still out there reading, doing book clubs, and I love to be a part of it. So the last book I read in 2025 was this book from one of my favorite urban paranormal authors. Her name is Anne Bishop, and this was The Isle of Weird. Initially read it as The Isle of Word because it's spelled W-Y-R-D. And this entire time, I believe like for the first half of the book, I pronounced it as such. I really liked it, being back into sort of that familiar prose and writing style that Anne Bishop has with the rest of her other books. And it was pretty familiar because I have read from her other books before. If you had told me that this book existed in that same world, I would have believed it. But this is like an entirely new world, entirely new set of characters. It's where the paranormal, the supernatural exists alongside with humans in general, in real life. And that was really interesting to see how they both navigated that aspect where there weren't your typical werewolves, vampires, or other supernatural creatures, but instead like something new and fresh, which I appreciated. That was the last book I read in 2025, but my only 5-star read of 2025 was, drumroll please, it's The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. You know, it's funny because this was also, or last year was the year I really utilized my Kindle reader, the library, essentially. Aside from like that one vlog that I did where I went to a used bookstore and got like, what, 3 to 4 books, did not purchase a single new book in 2025. And pretty proud of myself for that. Even with all the books that I did like and read, more than 90% of them were all read digitally on my e-reader. So love that. The Raven Scholar, oh my God, what a book. What a gem of a book. I think I read this book in the spring, almost summer of last year. It's, I don't know, suffice to say, perhaps one of my favorite fantasy books I've read up to date, aside from Robin Hobb's books. The Raven Scholar, in of itself, it was such a unique blend of fantasy, written in a really refreshing and innovative way that I thought wasn't really done before in other fantasies. It was just something really new. It was just that breath of fresh air that I really needed and absolutely loved and devoured. This is not a standalone. This is the first, I want to say, of a trilogy. I don't even think the second book comes out this year. I think the second book probably will come out next year. There is this really cool thing that the author does that I haven't really read in other books in general, is where they weave the second person and third person perspective of a certain thing or character and interweaves it together within the same chapter. And I thought it was so cool and fun to read. It reminded me of certain POVs in like a video game that you might play in, I don't know, an RPG game. If I had to describe this book without giving anything away, I would say it's like The Hunger Games with a huge blend of political intrigue. Very vague, very broad, very basic at its core, but this book is so much more. I would say it's not exactly Hunger Games-esque. There is a competition in lieu of the winner being the sole ruler and emperor of this faction of the kingdom, but the creator of these said games having to participate suddenly in these games while also at the same time trying to solve a murder mystery. This book did remind me a little bit of 2 other books that I did read. The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson, which was like a really cool blend of murder mystery, predominantly set like in this high stakes fantasy setting with a mix of certain characters from Blood Over Bright Haven by Emma Wang. If you've read either of those 2 books and really loved and enjoyed them, this book I would definitely recommend. I just really love how the story took its time with its progression and its characters, revealing like the twists, the turns, and the plot. And it also has a really cool multi-POV scenario throughout the book that, again, I haven't really read a lot from in recent books lately. The one thing I really absolutely loved about this book was the world building, the history, the culture, and the lore, with a lot of the beliefs, the superstitions, the legends that these characters surround themselves and, in an essence, immerse and grow up with. I don't think I've ever been interested more so in the world building than the characters in fantasy before, so that was really interesting. I was like, I would absolutely read one of the history textbooks about all the history, about all the gods, the magic system in this world. That was just how vast, interesting, and immersive it was. Another aspect that I loved from The Raven Scholar was the central main character. I felt like she was such a captivating, compelling, yet flawed, grounded character. A perfect blend. Not a Mary Sue, not overpowered, not badass. She was badass on her own because she was an imperial scholar. And I think I really like characters who are incredibly intelligent, can hold their own with words intellectually, and not a lot of action that takes place. However, with our main character, she can also hold her own with action as well. I just really loved how Antonia Hodgson crafted not just her character, but a lot of other different characters in this book as well. There's this one love interest who has sexy hip bones. And I don't know about you, but I've never really thought about hip bones before, ever, in my whole life of reading. Sexy hip bones. I think the one requirement now that I need to have the love interest in my life, they need to have sexy hip bones. I don't know what it was, I don't know what it is, but to this day, I still think about sexy hip bones. And obviously, hip bones aren't something you can look at or see for the most part in general, you know, when you're looking at people. But obviously, just a little tangent, but if the love of my life is not a Russian Asian hockey player with sexy hip bones, I don't want him. If you're confused by that, it's because I'm obsessed and in love with the characters, the story, everything, with heated rivalry. Cindy and I did react to the first 3 episodes on her channel and will be reacting to the last 3 on mine. So stay tuned for that. Last but not least, on my notes here, I did say the ending for this book is pure bliss, catastrophically violent and roaring upheaval. Think Sanderson snowball effect, where he pulls an all-out culmination of action, violent twist, and a spillage of secrets and truths. I think the ending for this book was just so explosive in the most dynamic and best way possible, to the point where, you know how usually in cliffhangers, you can't absolutely not wait for the second book? You're like, yes. I don't know, after reading the ending of this book, all the secrets and the truths that were revealed and setting up for an obvious book 2, I just felt appreciation and just fulfillment from this book, especially the ending in general. Like, I don't think I've ever read a fantasy book, maybe aside from Robin Hobb, that has made me feel like this before. So The Raven Scholar, I definitely put on high recommendation list. And if you're looking for just like a solid fantasy take with really great world building, history, lore, and amazing characters, plot, twists, and turns, it's a perfect blend of action. There's romance in here, but it's not like at the forefront. It's sexy and it's appealing. And so I really fucking loved it. It was a 5 out of 5 for me. So The Raven Scholar, the best book I read in 2025 and recently, up to date. With that being said, I will talk about very briefly the books, or the book that I'm currently reading, my first book of 2026, and my general high, like on the top list of my 2026 TBR, because I only have 9 books on that list, but these are the books I want to get to and read and finish and complete by the end of 2026. So this isn't a monthly TBR, this is sort of the year TBR. The books I whittled down to out of my bookshelf. However, this year, 2026, I did set my Goodreads goal at 100 books. I don't think I've ever hit 100 books in my whole life. So that is something I will always try to achieve and hit. But if I don't hit it, it's fine, because the most important thing to me is to read 50 to 100 pages a day. That's like what? An hour to an hour and a half of reading every day. All right, so the first book of 2026 that I'm currently reading right now, halfway through, is The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. This was such a weird, strange book, unexpected book. But with this one, I was sort of going into this type of book with the headspace that it would be sort of like a light-hearted, fun, cozy fantasy book to get into. Oh my god, I was so wrong. So wrong. This was a book that I think if I didn't have that determination, that conviction to read complete, you know, a book within the week, I think I would have given up and just been in an even bigger reading slump, because there's so much that goes into this book. It's really dense and it's a really informative book. And what I mean by that is there are words and just descriptors in here, and the way the prose in this book, it's so heavy-handed. And I mean that in the best complimentary way possible. In my mind, I was like, oh, it's a standalone. It's fantasy. It has goblins with a central character who at first introduces himself as like a little cinnamon roll when you get into like his headspace. I was like, you know what? This sounds like a lowbrow, effortless first book to get into of 2026. That is not the case. It's also really funny because this book had me annotating, had me writing down, underlining sentences for like the first time in who knows how long. I've annotated books before, but it's been years, and I find myself underlining words I've never encountered in any other books before or even heard of. I find that impressive. 30 years so far, reading countless books in my life, and there are words that I have not come across, or even if I did, utilized here in a way that I didn't know could be used in a sentence or structured as such. That was really cool. And I would be writing like my reactions, my thoughts, underlining stuff with a pen or a pencil, and it was great. I miss the physicality of reading in general. I know I mentioned I read mostly from the library on my Kindle reader. However, nothing beats the magic of holding and reading physically, flipping pages. And honestly, me underlining and annotating this book made me appreciate sort of like the reading experience a little bit more. Like I'm able to take it in and let it ruminate within me. So that was really great. That was really cool. Anyways, this book so far, it's really great. Even though it's so heavy and I'm like not slogging through it, listen, I'm not meaning to attribute any negativity in my reading experience so far to this book. Like everything I'm saying is sort of complimentary, if you will. You know, it's positive in that limelight. I really had to read everything slowly and take everything in because it reads as a fairy tale that you would find in a really heavy historical textbook. There's like this certain prose, this timeless prose that I really appreciate reading this. It sort of reminds me of reading a really big brow fantasy book when I'm like a kid or a teenager. Oh my god, my camera died. But I think I was saying how this book feels like you're reading a timeless classic fantasy book. In lieu with, I don't know, J.R. Tolkien or C.S. Lewis, it kind of gives off that familiar vibe. It essentially follows this young goblin emperor who is thrust into this world since he is fourth in line successor to the throne. And he finds himself suddenly one day in line for the throne after his father and the other three older brothers in line for the throne have been assassinated. And he essentially is like this really simple-minded but meek and humble, headstrong. He's just very lonely. He holds his own very well in courts, just being immersed and almost suffocated under like this heavy blanket of political pressure within like the kingdom, the courts, other goblins and elves in the Elflands as an emperor. Really interesting so far to watch him navigate and what he thinks, because his monologue, sometimes I've underlined so much of his monologue because the things that he says are so simple yet so heavy and impactful at the same time. Also a really cool writing style here where Addison utilizes like the old English, I don't know what's the correct terminology or definition here, when the characters, they mostly speak to each other using thou, thee, thy, like where dost thy coat lie or something. It almost reminds me of a Shakespeare play. So there's a lot of that going on. It did take me a little bit to get adjusted because I'm like, ooh, I didn't know where this was going. So we're gonna have to really sit and understand and take everything in slowly. So not even halfway through this book, like I'm so far right here. I have this much to read, and it's crazy because it's slow, it's methodical, it's very purposeful and deliberate in terms of story and where I think the author wants the characters to go, but I'm still very intrigued. My goal was to finish this in like 2 days, but I don't know. We shall see. That's The Goblin Emperor, and I'm going to quickly go over the 9 books I officially want to read and finish in 2026. I have a slight stack of books to the side, but the first one up being White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Okay, so the one cool thing that I did find occasionally scrolling through like Bookstagram or Book Talk was that so many people have been reading and immersing themselves lately in classic literature. I think it's just like this really cool resurgence of people in general reading classic lit. Like classic lit is on the rise. I thought it was originally romantasy, and then it was sort of like literary fiction, and now classic lit. I have read Fyodor Dostoevsky before, but the first book that I read from him, it's been a while. I read it in high school. It was Crime and Punishment. It was just a really good book overall. Like my first introductory book, I guess, to Russian literature. I found this book in Paris a couple years ago. It also has that Penguin classic look, super short, and I feel like I can easily like kill this like in a day. But yeah, this is one of 9 that I want to get into for 2026. So the next one I also picked up during my time there, James Baldwin Giovanni's Room. Heard so many great things about this. This was also on top of some people's lists of 2025. I'm making it my mission and my goal this year to read and complete James Baldwin because I have not read any James Baldwin, heard a lot of good things about him. I mean, I found this book in a bookstore in Paris that is about characters in Paris, so I thought that was very fitting. I also really love like the whole aesthetic of this book as well. I've been seeing a lot of the this iteration of Penguin classics, like what is it, modern classics. So yeah, really loving the look and feel of this. All right, another goal of mine is to read more translated fiction this year, and I wanted to start off with Haruki Murakami's books because I have yet to read a full-length novel from this person, this man. And I've heard so many different things, really bad things, really good things, really cool things. He's like a really misogynistic writer, especially when it comes to women's anatomy and just female characters in general. But I've heard his prose and his story and like the messaging behind it is just really something different, really beautiful. I have read a novella called The Strange Library, which I thought was okay. I don't think I could get like the full gist of who Haruki Murakami was through that little novella. So I think if I did have to start, it would be with Norwegian Wood. All right, this next one I've been meaning to get around to, but it's been on my TBR for quite a while now, and it's Minor Detail by Adanya Shibley, translated by Elizabeth Jacquet. This is written by a Palestinian author, and it's fiction, however, deeply rooted and heavily impacted by the ongoing genocide and just the terrible and traumatic erasure of the Palestinian people. And I've heard nothing but great, impactful things with this book, and I can't wait to get into it. All right, so this next one, also a Japanese translated book, is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I still have yet to read any book from this author, But again, I've heard fantastic things. This book is about friendship. It's crazy because I've actually talked about a couple of these books on my TBR videos before, and I am surprised that I haven't been notably spoiled, even mildly spoiled, in any context, like on Twitter, Bookstagram, even in other videos talking about these books, because a lot of these books have been out for like decades and years. It's about friendship, loss, grief, and growing up in general. This is the year where I'm trying to get back into the basics, back into the classic lits, the classics. And this one is Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon. Toni Morrison in general, everyone just seems to love her works, her books. They've been really educational, impactful, and just well loved by everyone in general. I also want to be an intellectual and on the bandwagon and also read a book from Toni Morrison, because I've heard, again, nothing but grand praise and love for all of her books. So I thought, what better way to start off than reading her most notable work, one of her most notable ones anyway, Song of Solomon. This next one, another, of course, classic author, which I'm sure you've all heard from before, and I actually have read one of his books in high school, is John Steinbeck's East of Eden. This is one of the books I found vlogging that used bookstore experience. The one book that I read in high school was Grapes of Wrath, which I did really enjoy. People have been loving his like prose, like especially with how he describes like nature in general. I've heard with the case with East of Eden is that it's mostly nature based, like landscapes, valleys, hills, Mother Earth in general. It's funny because the whole reason why I wanted to pick this one up wasn't through any review. It was actually through my in real life friend, where she brought this on a camping trip, and I was high. Okay, I was high as balls. It was like on a chair near a campfire, and I read like the first page or whatever. I don't know what it was. Maybe I was in that setting, in the nature setting, with this certain book in my hand. Reading that first page just zooted, right? It did something to me. Like it unlocked something in my brain where I was like, oh my God, I have to experience this. I have to read it. It never really interested me until, you know, that time, that place. So everything happened for a reason. And that is why I wanted to pick up and read East of Eden. And now I have been seeing a lot of his books and works circulating like online, on Book Talk, and now a few videos even on YouTube in general. All right, second to last one, and this is All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whittaker. This is a literary fiction novel that spans generations, all revolving around this one central character who cannot die. That's like the gist of what I got from the summary. But oh my God, on Goodreads, I've never heard of this author or this book, but the Goodreads reviews, astronomical, numerous. Are you guys all lying? Like, how come I have never ever heard of this book in my life? This could be the greatest scam or the lie you guys have ever told, especially on Goodreads. Because Goodreads now, I have a love-to-hate relationship. It's a platform that I still use to this day. Just can't help it. Like, I have fully embedded and immersed myself in the Goodreads user experience, and it's something I can't let go. Like, I've tried to use Fable, Storygraph. I'm just more consistent with Goodreads, and a lot of good Goodreads reviews for certain books, especially when it comes to romantasy. Oh God, I never ever listen to reviews in that genre. It's like a canon experience for every reader in general, I think. Last and not least, this book has been on my radar, TBR, for quite some time. Heard nothing but great love and appreciation for this, and it's Martyr. Martyr, Martyr, Martyr. I've mentioned this book in a couple of videos, and every single time, everyone is like, oh my God, I absolutely loved and devoured it. You will love it. And so I've heard every pretty much review under the sun within a 4 to 5 star range category, and have yet, honestly, to see anything remotely mid or negative about it. So yeah, this is the last and final book I do want to get around to this year. Anyways, the sun is going down, as you can see, but you've made it this far. Thank you for watching, and just thank you for being here. You know, it's been a while. I've been making videos and making content, I think, for like the past 9 to 10 years, like on this channel specifically. Whether you're a newcomer, first-time watcher, quiet lurker, a devoted stalker, I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for watching. I hope this year brings you plenty of peace, blessings, and just growth in general. Especially important to know that your life is important, it matters, and that you are not alone. Not to get too deep, not to get too sentimental, but I wanted to make this first video, you know, poised, classy, and chic as possible, and I think I achieved that. Don't really have, honestly, a structured plan of what kind of content I want to do in the coming future, so it would be really helpful to me if you left a few comments down below of certain books you want me to talk about, what kind of vlogs you like to see, what kind of videos. If you have any book recommendations, please give them to me, because I feel like Honestly, even like on the little glimpse, tiny glimpse that I have been on like Book Talk or Bookstagram or even on BookTube, I legitimately do not know any current releases, new releases, any most anticipated like books. So it's the time of year where I felt like I was getting FOMO because everyone has been posting their best, worst books, most anticipated books, and just stats. And I'm like, damn, it's time to lock in for real for 2026, and I can do it. We can do it. So please let me know down below your book recommendations, the books you love, hated, your most anticipated, all the shenanigans. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you all soon with a new video.